All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on our CommuniTea schedule today. I'm Ashley Click. If you don't know, I'm the Director of Social Justice for Holy Trinity, and we are pleased to welcome the 2nd District Community Prosecutor Doug Klein. He is here to answer some questions about fraud and scams, and especially that might be occurring during COVID. So he's going to keep it informal. So he'll start out with what he's experiencing and they're seeing with COVID and go through some other events. But feel free to raise your hand or put a question in the chat. This is kind of our typical informal style. So Doug, welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you. My name is Doug Klein. I'm with the U.S. Attorney's Office. I'm a prosecutor. We're federal and local prosecutors and DC. We practice in both the Superior Court, which is the local court, and the federal court. We do all the adult crimes ranging from shoplifting to carjacking, murders, fraud, terrorism cases, racketeering. The U.S. Attorney's Office is the only district where we do both the local and the federal crime. The Office of Attorney General does a lot of the juvenile criminal cases. So for example, if you have a juvenile commit a very serious offense, robbery, murder, whatever, that's going to be prosecuted by the Office of Attorney General, which is run by Carl Racine, who's the elected Attorney General in DC. If an adult commits one of those offenses, then we would prosecute the case in either Superior Court or federal court. There's one exception to that. It's where people do, they're a youth and they're 16 and 17-year-old. I'm just receiving a call here and I have to decline it. Hold on here, decline. Okay, am I back on? Hello. If they're 16 or 17 years old and they commit a robbery or murder or whatever, we can try them as an adult. That's called the Title 16. And we can try those people in federal or, well, actually it would be Superior Court as an adult. So we do that often because if somebody commits a very serious violent crime, we want to actually prosecute them as an adult. And unfortunately, we do have quite a few cases where you have young people committing those type of crimes. But we're here for fraud, and there's a lot of fraud out there. The scammers, they wake up every single morning trying to come up with schemes on how to defraud people out of their well-earned money. And unfortunately, they target a lot of our senior population. Number one, because seniors are home, and you know, when the phone rings, they're going to be home. Obviously, everybody's home during the COVID, so everybody's subject to these scams, but they specifically target seniors because seniors tend to come from a more trusting generation. You have a lot of seniors that may live alone. When they receive a phone call from somebody, a scammer, they may be more apt to speak with that person more at length and give more personal information. I'm not saying every senior, but this is generally some of the things that we found. And the main reason, obviously, is a lot of seniors have retirement income. They own their homes. They have pensions. They're collecting Social Security, and they tend to target these type of individuals. But from my experience, it seems like a lot of people are just subject to scams. I come home probably once a week and I have a scam call on my phone, whether it be from somebody saying they're from the IRS, or that I won some prize or a trip or whatever, and to call this number. And most people are smart enough to know that they shouldn't fall for these scams. Unfortunately, there's enough people out there that are vulnerable for various reasons, and they do fall victim to these scams. And they call back maybe out of fear, for example, that they owe money to the IRS, and the person gets them on the line, and the next thing you know, they're paying a fine that they don't owe to a scammer, or they're happy that they won a prize for the Jamaican lottery or some other foreign lottery, and they're told that you can get your $1 million prize by sending us $500, and then we'll send you your prize. So there are people that are vulnerable out there, and even if it's, you know, 1 out of 100 people that fall victim to these scams, they can make millions of dollars. In fact, the scams, they amount to billions of dollars lost every year, and that's all ages, whether it be seniors, people in their middle age, young people fall victim to these scams. So even though this is technically a senior scam seminar, I would say that everybody is subjected to scams. It doesn't matter what age that these scams are perpetrated on people. And of course, we have a disaster now, the COVID pandemic. And because of that, we see a lot of people out there coming up with scams to weigh on people's fears, to try to take advantage of people that are in a panic. You know, every day you wake up, can I go to the grocery store? Can I go out and get takeout food? Or what can I do? You know, I'm going to get the COVID. I need some sort of therapeutics, or I need to have whatever's available out there to prevent me from getting this bad disease. So one of the main things we see are treatment scams. So you have a lot of scammers that are offering fake cures, vaccines, unproven treatments. What we know now, of course, is there's no vaccine. We have some treatments, remdesivir and some of the other drugs that, of course, you get from your doctor. So there's no treatments that you want to pursue over the internet or from somebody that calls you on the phone or sends you a text or an email where they're making available to you some sort of miracle cure or miracle protection. All these claims are lies. There's no cure or vaccine. And a lot of these scammers impersonate government organizations. So they might say they're from WHO or from the CDC or for some other government organization, where they try to convince you that they have something that is going to help you, number one, avoid the disease, and number two, maybe unfortunately, if you're at home trying to get through the disease, that, oh, we have a miracle cure, don't worry about your doctor. Or there'll be fake doctors over the internet and try to sell you something that is totally illegal, doesn't help, and actually could make your situation worse. There's a lot of people that are desperate out there. I mean, if you're sitting at home and you're very sick and somebody sends you something that's offering some sort of miracle cure, you may fall for that. And once again, I'm sure a lot of people out there know that this is a scam, but there are people out there that fall victim to these, and we just want you to avoid these treatment scams. That's one of the biggest things. And they come after you, you know, once again, email, texts, phone calls, whatever. They come, you know, over the different various delivery systems. So we also have testing scams. Scammers are impersonating organizations such as the Red Cross, saying they're offering COVID-19 home tests door to door. The scammers then fraudulently charge their victim for tests that are never administered. So number one, that kind of takes me back to another thing. Never answer the door for a stranger, okay? Probably once every couple of months, there's some stranger comes to my door and knocks on the door, and we have a little window we can look out, and there's, you know, somebody's like, who is this person? It's not a neighbor. You know, it's not somebody from a company or whatever. It's just some stranger outside my door, somebody that I don't recognize. You open that door, you're vulnerable. Who knows what that person could be doing? They could just be there trying to solicit. But my advice is just don't open the door for strangers. And I tell my wife that. In fact, the other day, though, I did actually stupidly open the door for a stranger, and he was trying to sell pest control. He was a young guy, and my wife is like, what are you doing? You tell me not to answer the door, and you answer the door. So you never want to make yourself vulnerable for anybody coming door to door. But what they do is, you know, where do you get the tests? You get them from obviously the state, your hospital, doctors, that sort of thing. These private organizations, they're selling these testing kits, scams over the internet. It's a scam. They're just trying to get your money, and you're going to get something that doesn't work, that's fraudulent, and you're going to be out of how much whatever they charge you. Supply scams. Scammers are creating fake shops, websites, social media accounts, email addresses, claiming to sell medical supplies currently in high demand, such as surgical masks. When consumers attempt to purchase supplies through these channels, fraudsters pocket the money, and they never provide promised supplies. I don't know if you guys are on Facebook. Pretty much every fourth or fifth advertisement is somebody trying to sell face masks. So a lot of them are legit. You know, you can get all sorts of face masks over the internet, but just be vigilant in checking the websites out so you don't send money. I mean, I've heard stories of people sending money to different websites thinking they're going to get these masks in the mail or whatever type of medical supplies related to COVID. And, they give a credit card number, whatever, pay, and then they never receive the items. So you're out your money. So whenever you order anything over the computer, there is some risk to it. I don't want you to be totally fearful of, everything is a scam, but you really got to, take heed of sending, giving your credit card number, buying stuff over the internet related to the COVID, relating to medical supplies, that sort of thing. Do these supplies actually work? Is it a mask that it will protect you, or is it a scam? That sort of thing. So I try to stick with, if you're ordering masks, well-known organizations, that sort of thing. I'm not telling you where to buy your mask, but just be aware that there's many legit mask sales out there, but there's also a lot of scams where they're going to sell you something that either doesn't work, or you're going to send them money and you're not going to get any supplies. Provider scams. Scammers are also contacting people by phone or email pretending to be doctors and hospitals that have treated a friend or relative for COVID and demanding payment for treatment. Hold on, my eco light goes off every 15 minutes in my office. I don't know why, but it does. There you go. So this is kind of like the grandparent scam, where somebody's going to call you about a relative or a friend or whatever, saying they're treating them for COVID. Maybe you have a friend in South Carolina or a family member, and they're saying they're treating this person, but they need medical payment. So about the grandparent scam. That's where they actually call you and impersonate either a friend of one of your grandkids or children, and they try to demand money from you, saying that, oh, the person's been arrested for DUI, they've been in an accident, they need money for surgery, and they try to convince you that it's an emergency and they want you to go to Western Union or some other money transfer place and send them money right away. So that's the grandparent scam. This is kind of an offshoot of that, where they contact you by phone and they try to say they're a friend or a relative and they're demanding payment for treatment for somebody that you know. And because you love that person, you're in a panic, you do whatever they tell you to do, and next thing you know, you send the money and you're out of that money. So it's amazing. I mean, I talk to a lot of people in DC, and we have a lot of people that have master's degrees and doctorates, and a lot of people will know that these are scams. But once again, not to emphasize, there's enough people out there that fall for these scams. So even if you would say that's ridiculous, I would never fall for that scam by telling other friends or whatever. And certainly if you talk to people, a lot of people will say, yes, I did receive a call like that. Somebody tried to scam me out of the money. So charity scams, that's a big one. Soliciting donation for individual groups or areas affected by COVID. Whenever you have like a hurricane or a disaster, earthquakes, massive fires, there's always different charity groups that will be fraudulent, that will form and try to contact you via email, computer, text, whatever, saying, please help us with this horrible event, save the dogs or the cat. I love dogs and cats, but saving animals, helping the children, feed the children, people that are homeless, that sort of thing. So you really have to watch these charity scams. Because there's tons of them out there, and certainly the COVID scams are a big part of that now. We also have phishing scams, that's PHISHING, and cyber intrusions, scammers posing as national and global health authorities, including the World Health Organization and CDC, are sending phishing emails designed to trick recipients into clicking on a link or opening an attachment that downloads malware, or providing personal identifying financial information. One form of malware being spread contains an interactive online app of coronavirus infected areas purportedly produced by Johns Hopkins University. Once someone downloads this interactive map, the malware steals the user's credentials, such as usernames, credit card numbers, passwords, and other sensitive information usually stored in internet browsers. I don't know about you, but once again, once a month or so, maybe more often, I receive these strange texts or links, and I'm like, where did this come from? And of course, I know that it's a phishing attempt, where if you click on that link, it can basically compromise all of your personal information in your iPhone and your computer. You click on that link, you're screwed because it happens so fast. So you do not want to click on any of these. If you see a strange text that says there's a photo on it, or any sort of link, an email, and you're like, where did this come from? Something you do not recognize, get rid of it, because if you click on that, these computer scammers, they're geniuses. You can be in your bank account, they can get your credit card information, personal information, and then you can become a victim of identity theft where they have all your personal information. So that's probably the most dangerous scam that's out there. Once they get into your computer or whatever, you're really in trouble. And of course, there's the scam where they call you up and they say they've detected a problem in your computer, and they know they say, well, we can help you with that problem, but you have to provide us with your user ID so we can get in and we can clean it out, get rid of all the viruses. And next thing you know, the person is giving all this personal information, and next thing you know, they're in your computer. Oh, everything's fixed, but they have all your personal information. App scams. Scammers are also creating and manipulating mobile apps designed to track the spread of COVID-19 to insert malware that will compromise users' devices and personal information. Once again, strange apps that appear out of nowhere where they say, well, please, download this app. This will help you have information of people that have COVID in your area so you can avoid it, or where the high COVID areas are, to stay away. This app will give you that information, and next thing you know, you download the app thinking you're going to be smart and have all this information so you can avoid certain areas. And once again, malware. They're in your computer and you're screwed. They're going to get a lot of the information from your computer. Investment scams. Scammers are offering online promotions on various platforms, including social media, claiming that the products or services of publicly traded companies can prevent, detect, or cure COVID-19, and that stock prices of these companies will dramatically increase in value as a result. So, for example, they may say, look, this company is going to come up with this miracle treatment, and you can get in the ground floor investing at this stock at a very low price, and it's just going to go through the roof. And you're like, wow, man, this sounds great. Whatever, $6 a share, I can buy 100 shares. And next thing you know, it's going to be like Amazon or whatever, and I'm going to be a multimillionaire. So a lot of people, everybody wants to make money, and they prey on this. So they give you investment schemes that are never going to come to fruition, and are basically just scams, and they're just going to take your money. They're the promotion.
Doug,
Yeah.
sorry. Can I interrupt you for a second? So we had a question in the chat about phishing, and this is actually a problem we have at Holy Trinity, that our pastor's email keeps getting, I don't know what the word is, but they're using it to send a message from him saying, oh, I need your help with this or whatever. This happens monthly. We'll have periods where it doesn't happen, and then it happens all the time. But Deborah asked, what about using a phone number given in a phishing email? I called before I discovered it was a phishing scam. Did this allow access to my computer or phone?
I'm not a computer expert, and I can't say yes or no on that. Usually phone numbers, I don't know. Anytime you click on a strange link, there's always a possibility. Certainly, if you accidentally click onto some link or phone number, you should, monitor your personal information. Bank account. Like the other day, did I click on a link? I don't know. I did something. I don't know what it was. It was stupid or whatever, and I was kind of concerned, so I just watched my bank account for several days. But the point is that anytime you click on something that's strange, I'm sure next time I probably should have a computer expert. Maybe I can get somebody from our cyber crimes unit that could go into more detail on the actual technicalities of how they actually get into your computer. But I would monitor. You always should be monitoring your stuff anyway. Your credit card statements, your bank accounts, how what money's going in, what's being taken out, your personal information. I'm not recommending any specific company, but identity protection sometimes is helpful. You have to pay for it. As a government employee, I think we were compromised about 2 or 3 years ago, so they're providing us with some sort of identity protection for a while, because I occasionally will get an alert concerning some identity thing or whatever, and then they check it out or whatever. So I'm not recommending any specific company, but certainly something you should monitor. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to click on something that they're unaware of, because it's just you're bombarded with this stuff all the time, and sometimes you just click onto something that you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So just something you should monitor. I can't say yes or no on that, to be honest with you, because I don't know the specifics.
Another question I have is, if someone does call you and it's
Let me stop you there. You mentioned something about receiving information that's purportedly coming from the your is it a minister?
Pastor, yeah.
So that happens a lot, where they find an individual of responsibility or a friend of yours, and they will use that to contact people related to or connected with that person to say, oh, hello, this is, so-and-so, I need your help with this. And you're like, oh, he needs my help or she needs my help. Oh, I will. You want to be helpful because the person of responsibility, a pastor, a priest, whatever, somebody that maybe an organization or whatever. That is actually a very often used way to scam people to, whatever, give money or give information, that sort of thing. So that's been happening at your church?
It does. It happens. And, I fell for it at the beginning because I just I see Kevin Gillespie pop up. He's my boss. Right. So I'm like, yeah, but then I realized, and he will just call and say, give me a call. So I fell for it. But then I realized that, that like the way his name was written was incorrect. But, but I know there have been a couple of parishioners who've also received an email from him thinking it was a request for help or, buying some gift cards for somebody, because we do a lot of work like that went ahead and did that. So
real quick, my only suggestion, I think, now that we're in virtual times, I think maybe you should just reiterate and just let folks know that if this doesn't seem common with your pastor, then just pick up the phone and call somebody from the office and say, hey, is Pastor so-and-so asking for help, or does he need to feed somebody, or just whatever. Maybe just double check just to be on the safe side, since we're in virtual times right now. Normally if you went to church, you can ask them then, but since we're in virtual times right now, just double check before you give out your hard-earned money.
Yeah, and that's something, if it's happening, that's something you could actually discuss at one of your church meetings, or even in church, where you can just say, hey, look, we've had numerous parishioners receive these emails, which are false emails. Anybody out here is probably subjected possibly to this type of attempt. Just be aware of it. For example, we receive emails, several times a month, where people actually do that to government employees on our computers, where there's actually attempts where they try to contact you saying they're from some legitimate organization connected to a government organization, and to click on that link. And, I've been working here for a long time, and, once or twice I've unfortunately clicked on, I was stupid and clicked on it, and I immediately then contacted our IT department. But now I haven't clicked on in the last several years, but there's certainly people that still do that. So that's something that just the people in your community should be aware of, so they can and report it, so they know that is a problem.
Right.
We have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Yes,
could I say what happened to me one time? I received a message. My husband was in seminary, and I received from one of the people in the seminary, and I was thinking of clicking on, but my son-in-law, who's very tech savvy, super savvy, and I showed it to him, and I said, well, do I click on this? And he looked at it and said, this is a scam. And what was interesting about it, which I should have figured it out myself, the message from this guy was not what a priest would say, okay? And my son-in-law, who's an atheist, said he would have said it this way, da 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 da. And it was perfect, you know, perfect.
Mhm.
And then I realized, he said, you got to get rid of it, and so he got rid of it for me. But it was interesting. And then my husband contacted him and found out that he had been broken into, and so a lot of messages had gone out. And he had sent messages to all the people he usually sends messages, but he didn't send one to me because, you know, I'm not a former seminarian and stuff like that. He was just using a list. So, but I was one of the people in this contact list, apparently. And so I think sometimes language, how it's presented in language, can sometimes help. You know, I
Right.
should have caught it. I should have caught it, but I didn't.
Yeah, and if you're getting stuff from somebody who normally doesn't send that type of stuff, like for example, maybe your minister or priest or whatever doesn't send, you know, he's not a big email person, and all of a sudden you start receiving emails. So yeah, you really got to watch this stuff, because that is one of the biggest scams nowadays, is where they actually try to get into your actual personal information through links.
But this was a little different in that receiving a message from him was not totally unusual. Because, okay, so, you know, it was just the language, the way he said it. Okay, that was the big giveaway. And my son-in-law, when he reworded it, he worded it perfectly, and I should have caught it, and I didn't. So I felt pretty stupid.
Yeah, and you know, there's still a lot of people calling the old school way, phone calls. I receive, you know, phone calls all the time from different organizations wanting money, whether it be police organizations or you know, different other organizations. And for all I know, they could be legitimate. I mean, it could be like, for example, I always receive calls from the Virginia Police Association or some Sheriff's Association. It could be legit. You know, I don't know, but, and I love law enforcement because I work with them all the time, but am I going to give money or information over the phone to somebody who calls me at 6:30 at night that I don't know? I mean, it's just a general rule, phone soliciting. I mean, do you want to give that sort of information, or give somebody a credit card number, or tell them you're going to send them a check, somebody you don't even know that's just calling you out of the blue on the phone, even though they may sound legitimate? So I'm not trying to disparage these organizations, but you know, you're always taking a chance when you're just talking to a stranger over the phone. But it seems more nowadays, since most people, you know, have iPhones, most people have computers, that now mostly it's happening, you know, via text, via email, via the computers, because people, you know, and especially in the pandemic, people are on their phones all day, their computers. So now it's even more rampant than it was before. So yes, everybody's vulnerable. It doesn't matter what education level or income level you have, you know, you're vulnerable to this type of scams. We also have the doctor's prescription abuse.
Doug, real quick, we have another question.
Oh, question. Oh, good. Yeah, because we just have a couple other.
It was another young lady who wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Looked like her call has dropped, but go ahead. Sorry.
So anyway, other reported activity concerns doctors writing prescriptions for various medications that are believed to be a cure for COVID. As of now, there's no known cure or therapeutic treatment for COVID, and taking any medication believed to cure or relieve the symptoms of COVID could be deadly. We are already hearing reports of individuals that have died after taking medications believed to cure COVID-19. Moreover, taking unapproved medication can also deprive others who need those medicines for legitimate purposes. We also have $1,000 check scams. Scammers are contacting people over email and are telling them that their $1,000 check as part of the stimulus package responding to COVID-19 is already waiting for them, and that all they need to do is provide personal information such as bank account numbers, social security numbers, which are the key pieces of information that need to perpetrate identity theft. We have a COVID pandemic fraud hotline, so you can actually call directly to our office. It's 202-252-7022. That's 202-252-7022. So you can report scams directly to our office. certainly we work with law enforcement, MPD, FBI, all the different organizations to combat scams. We have a fraud section that works, to prosecute these type of people. Or if you want to, you can send an email to usadc.covid19@usdoj.gov. That's usadc.covid19@usdoj.gov. So one thing that I do want you to, some rules that I've come up with to avoid identity theft, and I'm going to go over that, and then we can open it up for questions and other frauds. I'm also going to let Denise do a little talking here too. So when it comes to scams, you need to be suspicious and skeptical. I hate to, have everybody constantly be on guard for emails and phone calls and all that, but you do. I mean, that's the world we live in nowadays. You just have to be vigilant. So trust but verify. Scammers use trust. That's their biggest tactic, is using your trust in them to scam you. Nothing is urgent. Scammers will try to get you to act quickly to prevent you from using reason and common sense and from fully researching anyone or anything to which you are sending money. If they are rushing you, chances are they are trying to scam you. The deal's only, this is only going to be good for 1 or 2 days, and you're going to miss out. We're running out of supplies. You got to order it now. You're going to miss out. You're going to regret this. I'll say, listen to your inner voice. If it feels weird to you, it's like, there's just something wrong with this. You know what? You got to go with your gut feeling. Your body, it's your mind, your body, it's telling you something. Something isn't right here. Back off, step away, don't fall for it. Guard your personal information, your social security number, bank account numbers, driver's license, birth dates, phone numbers, all these common sense things. You have to protect them. Don't be giving this information out to strangers over the phone. And you know what? Just say no. When somebody calls you on the phone, don't try to engage them in conversation and say, you know what? I know Mr. Klein, who's a prosecutor, and I have your phone number, and I'm going to, give him this phone number. They may say, oh, really, ma'am? Really, sir? Well, I know where you live, and I'm going to come to your house, and I'm going to bring, there's instances where people try to get tricky with the scammers, and then the scammers, who are criminals, who are trying to scam you, then will turn the tables and try to scare you to think that they actually do know where you live and they're coming to your house. So just hang up. Thank you, sir. I'm not interested. Hang up the phone. Don't engage them. Don't try to be clever and tell them you're going to report them to the police or whatever. Take down the phone number or your records. And, by the way, the phone numbers, they're going to come from 202, 301s, 410s. The scams used to come from, California and Florida and overseas, and they would be numbers you would go, what? You knew that was a scam. Now it's numbers. I get calls all the time at 703, 785 numbers. That's from Virginia, or 301 or 410s. They use local numbers, even though they're calling from California, Wyoming, wherever they're calling from. It's still going to be a local number to make it look more legit. Never pay fees up front for a promise of a big payoff later. If somebody tells you you won a prize, but you have to pay them a certain amount of money to get the prize before you get it, it's a scam, all right? So please do not fall for that. And do not reply to a message where they call you and say, we need your personal information. The IRS scams, the lottery scams, they're, you won a prize, or, you owe money, but we need all this information to square things away. They're just trying to find out information over the phone. So these are all common sense things, obviously. So I don't know if there's any questions now. Do you want to, Denise, talk about a little some of the things that you wanted to talk about?
Ms. Deborah, you have a question?
Yes. I'm trying to keep a 96-year-old neighbor safe. And I and another neighbor, we don't have any legal power with her, nor does anybody. But she's getting more confused, and it's harder to keep her safe, and she wants something so she can go on the internet, and we're all discouraging it. But I understand you can't do business very well without it, but she also, I don't think, could operate it too well and could really get into trouble. But the problem is she would be in her current state if somebody called and was offering her COVID testing. I mean, I can see her buying that because she thinks she needs to be tested every week, you know, as much as we're telling her that she doesn't. I don't know what to do, but do you have any advice of how people can help very elderly who used to operate very well on their own but are beginning to kind of go downhill a bit, to really focus on these things and to stay away from them?
Well, you bring up a good point, and I should have mentioned this earlier. So a lot of elderly population of, I know people who are 85 years old and run marathons and are still working. And then I know people who are 72 years old that are disabled and have, dementia. So, and it can happen, of course, at any age. We know younger people that have dementia, unfortunately, or Alzheimer's. So as we get older, there are some things where our capacity is diminished. My uncle, who you can talk to him about things that happened in the past, and he could talk to you about the 1969 Cubs and the Yankees and whatever. But if you ask him what happened, 5 minutes ago, he can't remember that. So there are areas where obviously the elderly can be more vulnerable because of diminished mental capacity. And that can happen at any age. It's just not elderly people. But, obviously, as we get older, some of our mental capacity diminishes, unfortunately. I mean, that's just a part of aging. So, yes, she could be vulnerable. You are an excellent neighbor. You can counsel her. I mean, there's nothing legally you can do to prevent her from learning the internet. I tell you that the Department on Aging, which is actually like a cabinet level position in the DC government, is an excellent organization that has all sorts of programs for the elderly. I used to go there regularly to do seminars on all sorts of subjects. And it's a very nice building, 500 K Street Northeast. And they have all sorts of programs for the elderly. I don't know how they're doing things virtually nowadays. It doesn't seem like she's somebody that would need, the adult protective services. She's not like a hoarder or somebody who is, not keeping herself healthy or whatever. So she's not doing anything that's bringing harm to herself. It's just that her and you can see how she might be vulnerable to a scam when she's sitting at the computer having fun. And then all of a sudden she receives an email or a text. Oh, what's this?
But she doesn't sit at a computer. So that's why we're trying to discourage her, because, I mean, she's only subject to phone calls and mail. But she would, a phone call at any point at this point on certain subjects, I could see triggering her.
Well, you know what? You obviously you can educate. You've educated yourself. You're a good neighbor. I mean, I would just counsel her on please don't fall victim to these type of scammers who are going to try to get personal. Educate her on what to avoid, and just say, look, if you have a question, give me a call. Don't give people money over the phone, or just as a friend, and just say, hey, look, I just went to this seminar where I heard of all these sorts of scams that are out there. And I know you weren't able to attend, but this is what I learned. And I just want to make sure that you don't fall victim to any of these scams, that sort of thing, where you have strangers calling you or receiving phone calls or mail saying that you want a prize and all this, because she's exactly the type of people that they prey on. I mean, you could have a 90-year-old woman who has whatever, 100,000 in the bank or even more. And next thing you know, she's sending money to some scammer because they said she won the Jamaican lottery and she has $500,000 that they're ready to say, oh, this is great. I can leave this money to my grandchildren, or, help my grandchildren through college, or do whatever she wants with it, buy a new Mercedes. So, you're doing the right thing. It doesn't seem like it's the type of situation where there would need to be some sort of intervention. It's just you're concerned with her as a friend. So as a friend, I think just to keep her educated and to have conversations with her concerning what you've learned, what you've heard on the news. And I mean, if she wants to get on a computer or whatever as a friend, hey, can I get on there with you or whatever? I don't know. I mean, it's almost like having kind of supervising her just in a friendly type of way where you don't really impose on her and make her feel like you're lecturing her, telling her not what to do, that sort of thing. But it doesn't seem like she's somebody that would need some sort of intervention. But the DC Department on Aging, once again, I'm not familiar with how they're operating during the COVID. I'm sure they have all sorts of seminars and that sort of thing, or just have her come to one of our talks and we can talk to her on Zoom or that sort of, or if you want, I can give her a call. I could talk to her and say, hey, look, I know you missed the seminar, but you might want to watch it. Your friend so-and-so, she just said, just wanted to keep you informed and sort of thing. So feel free to do that. I'd be willing to talk to her for 5 or 10 minutes and just, kind of educate her or whatever. But as a friend, she'd probably take it better from you.
Sometimes.
But she's the type of person that, would be vulnerable.
I mean, she's 96, but she thinks that she's still on top of everything.
Right.
And in 80% of the things she is, but, her understanding about things is going down. And the one saving grace that the other neighbor and I have is she doesn't know the internet. She doesn't have access.
Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't know what the word Zoom meant.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that as a good thing. She has no relatives. So, but
I'm surprised she hasn't told you about phone calls she's received, because these scammers are very savvy at engaging people like her in a long conversation. We go, oh, hey, this guy's nice. I'm going to talk to him for a while. Next thing you know, they're telling their life story, but then, okay, by the way, they reveal their social security number, their financial information and all that. And by the time the phone call's over, the person has all the information they need to create, identity theft. So definitely vulnerable. So I think she doesn't just talk to her as a friend and just make sure she's informed and smart.
I need to engage her more about who she's talking with. Yeah.
Yep.
Doug, could you say, so suppose Deb's friend did learn Zoom, or she at least got an internet access, or even if she gave her information over the phone, what are 3 steps that Deb would need to tell her to do, I guess, then if she gave out her information for the Jamaican lottery, like you said?
Well,
what do you do once you make a mistake?
There's an MPD fraud site, you can Google MPD fraud section, the Metropolitan Police Department fraud section. Any fraud should be reported to the police. I mean, so if you fall victim to a fraud, for example, you send the Jamaican lottery $500 and all of a sudden you're like, that was stupid. I'm not getting that money back. And then they call you back. They want more money. You finally realize this is a fraud. The chances of you getting your money back are very slim, but by reporting a fraud to the appropriate law enforcement authority or to our pandemic hotline, people will be looking into it. So the more reports we get, obviously it helps our investigation. We don't get all the fraudsters because they operate all over the country and all over the world, but the FBI, the U.S. attorney's offices throughout the country, the Department of Justice, they have prosecutors that are dedicated. All they do is go after these type of individuals and try to stop them and indict them and get them prosecuted. And so by reporting it, I can't guarantee you're going to have instant gratification, but if you fall victim to a fraud, you need to report it to law enforcement authorities. They'll take a police report. They'll keep you informed if the person ultimately gets indicted or whatever. They may tell you to save certain financial information or contact information, that sort of thing. So, yeah, the only way we can prosecute a case is if we have evidence. So if somebody reports a fraud, that's how the investigation starts. And then when you report it, like, oh, we've received 10 reports exactly like this one where people have been defrauded for this technique is the way they were defrauded. And that's how investigations begin. And that's how we get to the bottom of it. A lot of these investigations are very labor intensive and they're long-term investigations, months and sometimes several years before we, close these places down and get these people. But if you just don't tell anybody about it, then whatever, you're a victim and nobody's going to know about it. And a lot of people don't report the fact that they're scammed because number one, they're embarrassed. They're embarrassed to admit that they were scammed, or they just don't want to get involved, frankly. They just chalk it up to, well, I was scammed. I'm not going to tell anybody about it, but I won't fall for a scam again. We need to have these scams reported. That's why we have the different report places where you can report these unfortunate events.
And Doug, one more question on follow up to that. So if you fell for like a vendor scam, like the Facebook ads or,
Yeah.
and you bought something. I remember we bought these masks that were New York Giant masks and we never received them. Because at the time we were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So is that a better Business Bureau report or?
Right. Yes, they have the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is very good. The website there, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. In fact, I have that like here. Hold on here. In here. So we have the Federal Trade Commission. So you can Google that. I can give you the information here, but it's probably better just to Google it. Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. There's the federal, there's the police, of course. There's Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. So these are things you can Google, federal government websites, and they have reporting procedures. Additionally, there's the DC Department of, I'm trying to get it right here, DC Department of Insurance and Banking. See, let me look it up here because I used to do a lot of stuff with them. DC, that's directly in DC. Let me look it up, take 10 seconds here, DC Department. Fraud and they have actually a Consumer Services Division that you can report fraud in DC. And let's see, where is that? Contact the department's Consumer Services Division. There's a phone number, 202-727-8000. They actually have a complaint form. I can actually email this to you. So why don't I email it to you? And then you can have it to file a complaint.
Okay, great, thanks.
Concerning fraud actually in the District of Columbia. It's actually a Consumer Services Division. Gosh. The Office of Attorney General actually has also people that look into those things too. So what I should do is I'll get that information and then I'll email it to you, and then you can send that out to the people in your parish.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah.
I wanted to add a few that Doug did not mention. My name is Donnie Adams, and I work with Doug. I'm the 2nd District Community Outreach Specialist. So the ones that I want to speak of today is utility fraud. So these scammers have gotten so good, like Doug said, that they've changed their phone numbers. So it looks like it's Pepco or Verizon. It's some type of machine. It's like a scrambler or something, and they can change the phone number to what the utility company number is. And what they do is they ask you for a gift card. They'll tell you, like, go to the 7-Eleven, get a gift card, give us the number from off of the gift card, and it can't be traced. So utility companies will never call you on the phone. If you owe them money, they will put it in writing and they will mail it to you. So you have to be very, very careful as far as the utility scams. Now that we're kind of like in tax time, from the extension, IRS and DC taxes, Maryland taxes, none of these tax places will ever call you on the phone. You can call them on the phone, but they're not going to call you. They're going to put it in writing. So if anybody ever calls you guys or emails you or anything like that to say that you owe this money, you better pay, or we're going to take your house away, we're going to garnish your Social Security, we're going to garnish your pension, they're not going to do it that way. They're going to put it in writing. And if you are not 100% sure, you can always call them. You can always call them and say, hey, look, I got this call on the phone, and I just want to just make sure that this wasn't me, that you just got me mixed up with somebody else. So now that we're virtual and we're doing everything online, you're not really going out, you're doing your shopping online, your grocery shopping, you're doing everything pretty much online. The only thing that I say is just please be safe and think about different websites, and think about, like, not going to websites that you're not familiar with. Like if you're doing like your regular, like Giant and Safeway and, Instacart or whatever you do as far as like your day-to-day, you're fine. But ones that you're not familiar with, just be careful, because during these virtual times, it's a little bit harder as far as the law enforcement to get involved, as far as, trying to get you your money back or reporting it, or so just be very, very careful. It's another one that Doug actually mentioned, but I wanted to piggyback off of it. If somebody asks you to, I got this check, they want you to deposit their paycheck or any kind of check in your account, and you give them the money, they say, I don't have a bank account. Can you cash my check? I just started this new job. I don't have a bank account. Can you cash this check for me? And you cash it, and the check is a fake check. And so they've gotten their money, and you're in the hole for that money. So if anybody ever asks you to cash a check that you don't know, I mean, just be mindful, be kind of careful as far as cashing checks. But that's all I kind of have.
Yeah, that's called, they have a secret shopper scam where they actually send you money like $300 and tell you to deposit that money into your account, and then to wire a certain amount of money back. Why does this person keep trying to call me? They have you wire the money back to them and by using Western Union or something, and then you report on their services, but you keep a certain amount for yourself. The problem with that is that, of course, it's a fake check, and the check bounces, so the money you send back to them goes in their pocket, but then you're liable to your bank for the amount of money that you deposited in your account through this fake check. A lot of the banks, of course, are going to forgive that because they know there's a lot of scams out there. But, there's a possibility you would be liable for that money. So if anybody tells you to deposit a strange check, people don't send people $300 in the mail to deposit in the bank. It's a scam. So you really, really have to avoid that. And I actually have now it's called the DC Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking, and I'm going to email that. And then it actually gives the phone number, website, and the actual complaint form that you can fill out that goes directly to a department in the District of Columbia. I work with people there. One of the individuals is called Idris Abdallah, and we've done seminars together. So they investigate a lot of these frauds that actually happen in the District of Columbia, and they can do law enforcement referrals. So that would be one of the first places I would report any of these scams to. And then, of course, they also work with the Office of Attorney General, which is the DC, Attorney General Carl Racine and his attorneys for the District of Columbia. So you have three people that directly in DC, the U.S. Attorney's Office, Office of Attorney General, and the DC Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking that deal directly with these frauds. So you have, and then of course, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is also another good one. That's a federal agency. You can contact them also. So we could talk all day, like you said, about these scams. We can always come back.
Does anybody have any other questions that we didn't hit before we wrap up? All right, great. Well, thanks,
Thank
Doug.
you.
Thank you, Miss Adams, for arranging it.
For sure, anytime we can come for, anything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Like if you have some other concerns or some other things that you want to talk about, just contact us. And I mean, a lot of times we have a lot of partners that we work with. So even if it's something that we can't, speak professionally on, but we might be able to get somebody to come in and speak to you guys.
Yeah, Denise and I were talking about maybe there's where I am in Virginia, we keep getting mail about voting from home and multiple letters. So we were they're working on something like that on election fraud. So maybe we'll regroup with you when you have
Yeah,
that
we
ready.
received that also, and it turned out to be a fraud where it just came out of the blue to register to vote.
Right.
Yeah, and that was on the news. There's also a great website, which I'm going to send to you, both the insurance fraud and banking section, and also it's called Elderjustice.gov, which it's basically an encyclopedia on elder abuse. It's a DOJ website. And
That
you
would be
could
good.
literally spend a week reading it. I mean, it just has so much information on it. It's just unbelievable. Elderjustice.gov. So I'm going to send that also to you to send out, because any type of information you want on elder abuse, you can go to that website, and it actually provides you with information, and it actually gives you ways to contact counselors through the Department of Justice and people that will actually talk to you about these type of scams. So it's a very good website that you can go to. It's kind of an encyclopedia for this type of information. And if you have time to read, you can just read a little bit every day about it and find out new information about new scams and elder abuse, that sort of thing.
Mhm. Excuse me, could I mention, I have received a number, at least 5 or 6 calls that were in either Chinese or some Asian language. And I thought it was sort of unusual that they should be calling in the US using a foreign language like Chinese or something
Yes.
like that. Spanish, I'd understand. Chinese, I wouldn't. And then,
Oh, did we lose her?
She muted. She's muted.
Unmute her. I guess we have to unmute her.
okay. Okay, so you heard about the Chinese calls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And I mean, it's at least 5, and it may be more like 10. I mean, I've really received a lot. But the other that I received, and I'll admit, I do not answer phone calls unless I know who it's coming from. And then I figured that if it's important, they'll leave a voice message. So I check my voicemail a lot to see. And okay, and the 2 of them were from Russia, it said. You know, the place that says where they're from. And so that wasn't very reassuring, I must admit.
Right. And what I would recommend, once again, not telling you what to buy or purchase or whatever, but
I don't answer them.
We have a caller ID. I think my wife got it at, I don't know where she got it, Walmart or Target or whatever, for I don't know how much it was, but the thing works like a charm, and the phone rings and it actually says scam call, or it says the call from so-and-so, and we know it's a scam. So basically 85% of the calls we get, we do not answer. So because they're just scam calls. And in fact, I've told my wife, I said, look, why do we even have a phone at home? We should just have our iPhones, because I don't get as much calls on those. But the caller ID thing, just once again, I'm not recommending any specific one, but it just works like a charm to prevent you from answering the phone for calls that are definitely scams and something you don't know about. So it's just something to think about buying. There's a lot of them are cheap. You can
Okay,
get
I'm a little confused. Some of when I get some calls, the thing says probably a scam. Does that mean I already have it?
Well, I'm saying that you're doing the right thing. You don't want to answer that. You just, take if it's important. Well, even if it's not important, they may leave a message, from some strange person trying to get you to call them back. But the caller ID basically will identify the call as a potential scam call. So at least the one that I have, I mean, it actually says it. So I'm not
you
saying
get it in a store.
Pardon?
You buy it in a store.
Oh yeah, you just buy, it's a caller, it's like an answering machine. Yeah. They have them, you can get them at Target or Walmart or whatever, phone stores that actually, I mean, the way you sound like you actually have one, right?
Well, I don't know. A lot of the calls I get, unless I know who it's from, I do not answer the phone. And then I go to the voicemail, and I figure that if it's important, I even get some scams that are trying to get me through leaving a voicemail message, but they don't leave who they're from or yada, yada, yada. So I ignore those. That's a scam too. But are you saying that there is
Well, no, it's a service. It's actually a service you get. All I know is that we have some sort of service or machine where it's called caller ID.
Mhm.
And then it will actually on a machine. And once again, it just will say that this is a potential scam call, whatever, that sort of thing. It's just like, or it'll say unidentified number or whatever. So we just don't answer the phone. So, but I think just,
You have a call ID with your phone service. If you
yeah,
saying
the
that
phone service, that's it. It's part of the phone
have
service,
something,
right?
that it looks like you already have it. It looks like you have something with your phone
Yeah.
service
And if you
already.
Yeah, but it doesn't, it's only a couple that say probably a scam, but the others, you know, if it doesn't say who you're from, and I warn people that unless, if I don't answer the phone and it's important, you know, so companies or something, then leave a message and then I will call back.
Right, because if it's important, they're going to leave a message. Even
That's
if it's
what I
not
figure.
important and they leave a message, you'll know it's a scam because you'll be like, who is this person? I don't recognize the
Yeah.
voice. It sounds
Yeah, that's
stupid.
what
It
I'm
sounds
using.
like a scam.
Yeah.
Or they won't leave a message and they'll never call you back. Now, I receive a call, it stopped about a month ago, but probably for 3 months, every single night at around between 6 and 8 o'clock, I would receive a phone call from a Pittsburgh number. I don't know anybody in Pittsburgh. So that every single night it would be the same number that was calling. So I'm thinking to myself, you know, who is this person? But they never left a message. So I never answered the phone and then it stopped. And I'm not saying it was a scam. I don't know who it was or whatever, but if it was important, they would have left a message. And if they leave a message, then you're going to know this doesn't sound right. It's a robocall or whatever it is. That sort of thing. You're doing the right thing. You know, you have a caller ID service through your phone service, and then you have a machine that will sometimes actually let you know that it's a scam call, that sort of thing. So you're doing the right thing.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, Doug. Thank you for your time and a lot of information. And you're right. You don't have to be a senior. I think I've clicked on a couple of things I shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Hoping that it was better, you know, too good to be true. But, you know, when you guys, we'll have you back when you have more, you know, updates and things. I think this was helpful and we're grateful. And I look forward to your email. I'll share that with all the attendees
Yeah,
and
I'll
people who
send
have
it to you.
registered.
All righty.
All right. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. And we'll see you. The next one is later this month about food insecurity with Capital Area Food Banks. I hope we see you then.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.